You know, Herb, I'd like to migrate to Miami for the winter.
But you can't fly, Don.
Ironic, isn't it?
Ironic?
I'm a bird, but I can't fly.
Uh-huh.
I can stand, though.
Yes, you can.
That's why I'm going stand by.
Oh, I can't stand by and listen to any more of this. Why don't you flip on Beakman?
Now that's a first-class flipper idea.
Fact! The Earth's rotation is slowing down. In a few 100 million years, a day could last 48 hours. I'm Beakman, and you've just broken into Beakman's world.
Hike from Ralston, Iowa writes,
Dear
Beakman, how do birds know when to fly? South?
Now there's a tough-like question. Birds flying south is an example of migration, one of nature's greatest wonders.
Hey! What's with all the racket, Beakmanity Hour? Whoa! Flying squirrels!
Actually, Lester, those are Canadian geese.
Posing as flying squirrels? The fiends!
Those are geese, Lester! Geese honk!
Like flying squirrels don't when they're in a traffic jam?
They are geese. And they're making their seasonal migration from their chilly homes up north to warmer climates in the south. They are geese! And did you notice they were flying in their trademark V formation? Geese fly in a V formation because it's more efficient. The lead goose creates a draft or slipstream that makes it easier for the geese behind him to goose him. I mean, the geese behind him to fly.
Personally, I like flying in a V-neck. It's quietly elegant, yet woefully dated and fashionably retro. And I can tell by those disapproving looks on your faces that I have veered off the subject. Which is why birds, don't tell me it's right on the tip of my tonsils, birds migrate.
Migrate. To pass periodically from one region to another. From the Latin migratus.
Come on, guys! Snap out of it! Focus!
As the good professor was saying, migration is when whole populations of animals regularly move from one place to another as conditions change. Like the geese, they could be looking for a warmer place, or more food, or somewhere to have their babies.
Well, birds aren't the only critters who migrate.
Millions and millions of monarch butterflies leave Canada and Alaska and schlep 4,000 miles to Mexico for the winter, laying their eggs along the way.
Migrating caribou often travel in herds of up to 50,000 and roam as far as 620 miles in each direction.
And after 4 years at sea, salmon find their way up and over waterfalls to the river where they hatched. But by far, the biggest, the best migratory animal of all is this one, the
Man in the gray flannel rat suit. Yes, every year yours truly, along with every other man in a rat suit, migrates to Las Vegas, Nevada, where we fatten ourselves up on the 79-cent all-you-can-eat breakfast, returning in the spring to graze, perchance to dream.
No, Lester is not the largest migratory animal I had in mind, folks.
Although he certainly is the smelliest.
Why, thank you.
I was referring to a member of the most massive mess of mammals, the gray whale. The gray whale lives in the Arctic, but swims 6,000 miles down to Mexico for the winter, making it the mammal that migrates the farthest. Most animals have an internal clock that tells them when to migrate. It's not a real clock. It's just a precise sense of time. It alerts them that the days are getting shorter, the weather is changing, and it's time to scram.
Oh, and how do these critters know where they're going?
Ah, simple. Maps, and plenty of them. Bonus fact, geese are the only birds that can refold a map.
No, Lester, they do not use maps.
Just kidding about the maps. Actually, they stop at gas stations and ask for directions.
Hey, where's the deli?
No, Lester.
No, Lester, you're wrong, Lester. What's with all the negativity? Where's the love in this room?
Oh, Beaky, how do they know where they're going?
They navigate by the stars at night and the sun during the day. Plus, birds or animals traveling in large groups are guided by those group members that have made the journey before.
Beakman bonus bird fact. Some birds can find their way using the Earth's magnetic field as a guide, almost as if they have a built-in compass.
And sometimes they need a little help from a friend. Since newborn birds adopt the first moving thing they see as their parent, Canadian artist and scientist Bill Lishman literally became Father Goose. He was able to raise a flock of geese and teach them to migrate 400 miles from his home in Canada to Virginia.
So, Tracy Hike of Ralston, Iowa. Now you know how birds know when to fly south-a-wa. Bada bing.
Bada boos.
But a baby needs a new pair of shoes. Yes!
Coming up next, Lester will lift a weight using only his towering intellect. We'll uplift you after this, so stick around.
Beakman's World will be back after these messages. And now, back to Beakman's World.
Set your phasers for stun! It's time to input your intellect. Here he is, the Seamus of shenanigans, the gumshoe of gumption, the Heinz, and Dad of all that's rad.
The one, the only, the Beakman.
You rock 'em, I'll sock 'em. Let's booty slap.
Ward, don't be so hard on the boys.
Question, Nate and Millie Snyder of Albright, West Virginia write, Dear Beakman, how did Greenland, which is covered with ice and snow, get its name?
Greenland was named by the explorer who discovered it, Eric the Red.
So why isn't it called Redland?
Or Ericland.
He wanted to encourage his fellow Norsemen to go there, so he lied and named it Greenland.
Question, who were the first people to fly kites?
Answer, the people of China were flying kites more than 2,300 years ago.
I must be Chinese. People tell me to go fly a kite every day.
Shake your groove thing.
Question, how well can an earthworm see?
I'm sad to report that earthworms are blind.
On the bright side, however, they don't have to look at other earthworms. Thank you. Hey, thank you. You're beautiful. Try the buffet. We'll be here all week.
Question, how do you get an elephant out of your refrigerator?
Answer, I don't know. But I do know this. It's time for the Beakman Challenge. Lester, my fuzzy, furry, overfed, flea-bitten friend.
Oh, Beaky, you flatter me.
Up for a little weightlifting?
Never.
Never say never. Okay, I challenge you to lift this tiny barbell without raising your arm. Oh, man! I challenge you to do everything without raising your arm.
Lift the tiny barbell without raising my arm, eh? Very well. Pick up that barbell! Mission accomplished, and I didn't lift a finger. Thank you, Beakman, and may all your days be numbered.
That's good, Lester. But it wasn't what I had in mind.
Oh, it's not enough that I'm humiliated week after week. Now I'm supposed to be a mind reader.
But, Lester,
No buts. You proffered a challenge, I met said challenge. And I would wash my hands of the whole thing if I were the kind of guy who washed his hands at all.
Oh, yuck.
But you wouldn't mind if I lifted the tiny barbell without lifting my arm?
Hey, whatever gets you through the night. Oh, wow. Color me impressed.
You don't even want to know how I did it?
Are there burritos involved?
Yes.
Nougat center?
The noogiest.
Wow! How did you ever do that?
Thanks for asking. That little weight I was spinning would go off in a straight line if it weren't for the piece of string pulling it toward the straw. Since the string's attached to the barbell, the faster the weight spins, the more it pulls on the string, which in turn pulls on the barbell and lifts it up.
Coming up next, how do astronauts go to the bathroom in space? Or as we scientists like to call it, weightless whizzing.
I gotta go.
Don't float away. We'll be back in a flash. I mean, flash.
Beakman's World will be back in a flash. And now, back to Beakman's World.
Phoebe, I'm all keyed up for a question. Unlock a letter, please.
Unlocking.
No, Beakman. Little Miss Goodness and Light over there always gets to pick out the letters. And they're always so noble and smart and educational.
Well, Lester, that's the whole...
So I thought that today you could answer one of the important relative queries that's been cluttering up my mailbox.
Unbelievable!
Blaine Rogers of Saugus, Massachusetts writes and asks something that I've always wanted to know myself. Namely, how do astronauts go to the bathroom in space?
That's it. Get the net!
Wow! What a great question!
It is?
It is?
Abso-flush-and-lutely. As we speak, scientists from around the world are designing and building a space station so people can actually live and work in space. There are thousands of problems to solve, not the least of which is handling human waste. In an orbiting spacecraft, there's very little gravity. That's why you always see the astronauts floating around. And with so little gravity, also known as microgravity, what goes up doesn't always come down. And what goes down doesn't always stay down. Which brings us back to our friend, the toilet. On Earth, we rely on gravity to pull our waste into the commode. Then we use water to wash it away.
Huh?
Oh, man, can't you do that somewhere else?
Oh, sorry, Beaks. The hibiscus were looking a little low biscus.
Anywho, since there's so little gravity up in orbit, scientists had to design a special space toilet. Behold the space toilet. Instead of gravity and water, this baby uses a fan to draw waste, numbers 1 through 2, into a compartment where it is dried and cleaned.
So, it's kind of like a vacuum cleaner.
You know, Beakman's really got his head into this toilet thing.
If everything floats in space, how do astronauts stay seated on the throne?
My guess? Wacky glue and plenty of it.
Actually, Lester, they use an even more amazing device, first patented in 1903. A seatbelt, used along with handholds and foot restraints.
No magazine rack?
Well, there is a light for reading, and the window for galaxy gazing.
Okay, now we know how they go to the bathroom when they're in the space shuttle. But what about when they're walking in space? Do they have to come inside every time nature calls?
When astronauts go outside to work, they have to put on a spacesuit, a one-person spaceship called an extravehicular mobility unit, or EMU. There are 19 parts to an EMU. Getting ready to walk in space takes hours. If you had to take this thing off and put it back on every time you had to take a whiz, why, you'd never get any work done.
I don't get any work done, and I don't take off my costume. Questions?
So, astronauts wear special disposable underwear to collect urine when they're wearing their EMUs.
You mean like diapers?
Hebe! These are United States astronauts. They don't wear diapers. Well, actually, they do wear diapers, but that's not what they call them. The women wear disposable absorption and containment trunks. DAT for short. And the guys wear urine collection devices, or UCDs. But going to the bathroom is only one of the hundreds of problems we have to solve before we can live in space. Microgravity won't keep you on your bed, so you have to be strapped into a sleep restraint, or you'll end up sleep floating all over the space station. And what about eating?
Woo! Great! Who's buying?
Here you go, bottomless pit boy. Dig in.
A little on the dry side, isn't it?
That's because it's been dehydrated, meaning most of the water's been taken out of it. See, water is heavy, and when you travel in space, you have to travel light.
But unless you're Lester, you can't eat this without water. And if the astronauts can't bring water along, where do they get it?
Gotta tell ya! The fuel cells that use hydrogen and oxygen to make the space station's electricity also make water. So, when astronauts are ready to eat, they take some of that water and rehydrate their food. But eating and excreting are easy compared to the problems of actually building a space station 100 miles above the Earth. See, when you're floating free in space, there's nothing to stand on. And even if there were, there's not enough gravity to keep you there. That makes things that are easy to do here on Earth really hard to do up in orbit. And that's why astronauts wear special equipment called Manned Maneuvering Units, or MMUs, that combine gyroscopes, computers, and tiny rockets called thrusters to keep them steady when they work in space. The gyroscopes sense when the astronauts are moving and tell the computer. The computer fires thrusters to counter that movement.
So, Blaine Rogers of Saugus, Massachusetts, thanks for your letter. We really adored it.
And that's the poop on going in orbit.
Where do astronauts learn to work in outer space? In inner space. We'll go from think tank to sink tank after this.
Beakman's world must now take a beaker break. And now, back to Beakman's world.
How do astronauts learn to work in space?
By practicing underwater. Here we see the astronauts practicing to repair the Hubble Space Telescope. Floating around underwater lets them feel what it would be like to float around in space. When they finally made their house call 100 miles above the Earth, they were able to fix the orbiting telescope without a hitch.
And speaking of fixing things, I just fixed a sandwich. It doesn't have to be in space. It just has to be in my face.
Well, in that case, we're out of this place.
See you next time.
On Beakman's world. Well, Don, another half hour has just flown by.
Which is more than you can say for us, Herb.
Still wish penguins could fly, don't you?
Yeah. Do you know where we could be if we could fly?
Where?
I don't know. That's why I asked you.
Oh, turn off the TV.